Hi everybody, welcome. My name's Lauren Johnson and this is my still life painting class. Today we're going to learn the basics of acrylic painting. So let's go over the supply list real quick, see what materials we're going to need for this. First of all, a canvas or a panel, whatever you want to paint on. I'm just using this 9x12 because I want it to be a small painting that doesn't take too long. You want at least 2 jars of water to clean your brushes. You want several kinds of brushes, different sizes, different types. These are my favorites. You want some kind of palette. I like to use this disposable palette paper. I don't like to clean palettes. Palette knife for mixing your colors. I like to use glazing liquid when I work with acrylic paints. Golden is a great brand for paint or glazing liquid, pretty much anything. I like to go with Golden. This is the gloss version. The satin is also very nice, just depends on what you are in the mood for. Let's see, bottle of water, because once you get in the zone, you do not want to have to get up for anything. The basic color palette that we want to use is your primary colors and then a white and a dark brown for me. That's how I paint most of the time. I have a lot of different brands of acrylic paints. A lot of my paints are hand-me-downs from different artists, but I just work with what I have and I mix brands and it seems to work fine. This is my titanium white. You always got to have plenty of white. You'll use that more than anything else. You want a good red. I like to use cadmium red, medium hue. This is a Naphthol crimson. They're similar. This is what I'm going to work with today. A cadmium yellow, medium hue is a really great yellow you can use for a lot of different things. Ultramarine blue is just your primary blue. And then I always like to have burnt umber. I personally use brown and blue to make my darks instead of black most of the time. If you want to work with a more expansive palette with more colors, here are a few more I would recommend. Quinacridone magenta. It's great for making really bright purples, fuchsias, and magentas, obviously. Yellow ochre is nice, a more earthy yellow. Prussian blue hue is a darker blue that comes in handy when I'm doing my darks. Raw umber is a cooler brown. It's really nice. And then burnt sienna is just a warmer brown. So today's still life class is going to focus on painting fruit, specifically lemons and plums. And let's get started on this painting. We'll do the background first. I'm actually going to do a wash instead of using glazing liquid because I just think it's the look I want for the background. So what I'm going to do is use just a little bit of water in this bowl. I've mixed myself just a very simple, cool blue-green out of the cadmium yellow medium hue and the ultramarine blue. And if I water it down enough, if it doesn't completely dry on me, a little more blue and more water. That's basically the color I'm going for. I'm just gonna let it be kind of organic. Let it disperse all over the panel. So let's look at our still life setup. I've got a daylight bulb over here and our lemons and our plums right here. I'm gonna pretend that this fabric isn't all wrinkly and that it's not pink. It's gonna be this kind of light teal color. Okay, now with the teal color I've been working with, I'm gonna mix that with the glazing liquid, and it's gonna be a lot easier to use. And I'm gonna get my bearings by establishing this line where the table meets the wall. I'm gonna use my paintbrush to find the angle, bring it right over here. I'm gonna put it right there. Now it doesn't have to be perfect. We're gonna go over it again. But now we know where that is, and we can start placing our fruit. So in order to start laying in the lemons, I want to find the darkest value, the darkest color I can see in the lemons. And that's basically like a dark yellow. This is more brownish. I can add a little blue, make it cooler, but I think I'm okay with this color. So I'm gonna start by just casually rendering in these lemons, thinking about where that line is, where that far lemon on the left would be. Okay, we're gonna call that the first lemon. And the second lemon has a little more presence. It's a little more that kind of shape. Okay, this is one of many layers, so don't be worried about making a mistake. Okay, that last lemon, the back there. Okay, it's a little out of the picture plane, but maybe that'll be interesting. I'm gonna take this blue with my palette knife, add some red, get some glazing liquid, makes things flow better, and see what kind of purple I get. How cool do I want it? How warm do I want it? I think it's about where I want it to be. Let's try that. It's gonna be a little too purple. Oh, let's add some more red. Okay. I'm gonna take this filbert brush again, get a little more glazing liquid, get this color on my brush. And work on these plums. So I look at the spaces between the lemons and the plum, how much space is right here, for example, right there. A little bigger than that. They're not exactly. Now, just because those plums are way too purple, I have added more red to my purple mixture, and I'm just gonna go over them again. Making sure I've I've got the shape. I've got too much paint on my brush, so I'm just gonna get that off on my palette. Now I'm gonna look at the shadows cast by the fruit. I've mixed together my burnt umber with my ultramarine blue, and I've added glazing liquid to make it more of an interesting kind of mauve gray. And I see the plum shadow here right away. I'm just gonna lay that in. So now I'm adding the cast shadows from the plums that are on these lemons. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add some more darks to these shadowy parts of the lemon. Just layer by layer, creating the form. And you'll see, you may notice that now that we've put in the cast shadows, you can start to see the volume of the fruits. You just have to keep going with it. Okay, I think now that I've overexposed the video a bit, you can actually see what's going on the surface of those plums. So now is a good time to step back and look at your painting, get a little perspective, and decide what's working, what you like, and what's not working. For me, I've decided I think my lemons need to be a little warmer. I'll probably add an orange glaze. Obviously the plums are very dark. We're gonna have to build up more lights on those, but we're getting there. And then I'm looking at the surface of the fabric here and the wash that I've done. Am I crazy about it now? No. I'll probably add a layer of paint on top of that, and I'll use that to further confirm where the negative space is and get the shapes of these fruit just right. At this point, my palette is crazy, so I'm just going to throw it away. Now I'm going to take a mixture of my blue and black with a little glazing liquid and create a very dark color to make this dark line under the lemons to really give it that weight. So I'm actually going to take my red and add just a little bit of yellow to it, just to warm it up a bit. Because I'm pretty sure the inside, the juicy inside of these fruits is like a warm orange, but I'll have to find out when I eat it. But just looking through the thin skin, I can see this warm kind of orange. Right now, I'm working on the reflective light on the plums, which is our main way of defining these plums since they're so dark. And I've used a mixture of my ultramarine blue, my burnt umber, and my white to create a sort of bluish purple gray, which I think is working pretty well. And now I'm noticing that there's also a little yellow highlight from this lemon. So I'm gonna clean my brush, wipe it off on my apron. Try to just get a nice thin glaze of yellow so it's not too overwhelming. And just place that right there, real subtle. At this point, I'm ready to place some highlights so I can really see what this painting is going to do. I'm going to start with this plum back here and use just a cool white glaze to set that in. We're going to make it brighter once this dries. But that's the main part of the highlight. And over here, go. Leave it alone. Over here, the shape is a little different because the skin isn't as smooth. But the brightest part of it is, get more glazing liquid. And I've changed my brush to a better brush that has a finer point, finally. And we'll go back and work on that some more once that glaze dries. Because if you paint too much, you know, glaze on top of glaze on top of glaze, you're really going to start to have problems controlling your paint. All right, at this point, I'm going to go back in with the yellow and try and get it as bright as I need it to be, layer by layer with this modeling technique. Kind of having fun with the brush strokes, using my crappy brush again, because I don't mind that the bristles are going everywhere. It creates texture on the surface of the lemon. For this plum stem, I'm going to use a mixture of burnt umber, my cadmium yellow, and just a hint of blue. I'm going to use my good brush and just go in there. Try to do it with one stroke. And I've had too much coffee, but we'll make that work. And the other plum doesn't have a stem. And we'll just leave it that way. I'm going to take that same color. I'm going to add more yellow, a little more blue, make it more of a sap green, almost a yellow ochre, and see if I can just lay that highlight right onto the wet paint. I'm going to get all the paint off my paintbrush with my apron and just try and blend that right there. Not bad. All right, I'm going to add even more yellow. Try to just finish this stem right now. Add a final highlight. Now I'm putting the final highlights on the plums, which is pretty fun. You mix up a white with just a little bit of blue in it to cool it down. Try to get a nice thick bunch of paint on your brush without too much glazing liquid on it. And right in the middle there. Good. Okay, now as you can see, I'm working on the highlights on the lemons. I'm using a lemon yellow, or rather a really yellowy white, and then a whiter white, but I'm not going as cool with the white as I did for the plums. And I'm trying to create some texture with these highlights as well. So here it is, our basic fruit painting in acrylic. Is it perfect? No. Do I like it anyway? Yes. It was pretty fast and pretty simple, and it worked for these purposes. I hope you learned something, or at least enjoyed watching me paint.